Great man, lovely to see you.
Good to see you.
Now, let's talk about, we'll get to King Charles in a second, but Joe Biden, I mean, his supporters are trying to pretend that it's Donald Trump who's got the issues when it comes to being cognitive, his cognitive issues. Well, can we play this grab of the president who kind of doesn't know what France is?
Right after I was elected, I went to what they call a G7 meeting, all the NATO leaders. And I sat down and I said, America's back. And Mitterrand from France looked at me and said, you know, why, how long are you back for?
Oh, Nigel.
Oh dear, oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. Well, to begin, G7 is not NATO, so he got that bit wrong. He got the country wrong, and President Mitterrand died in 1996. And there have been other examples this week, and you know everyone sort of treats this with kid gloves. Let's just say it, shall we? Outright, he clearly has senile dementia. He is wholly unfit to be leader of the free world. And the real question is, when do the Democrats ditch him? They cannot go on into a general election with this man in this steep decline.
And it wasn't his only scenario. Again, earlier this week, you're bouncing around all over the place, taking too long to get where he needs to go. Now, obviously, they do something to him every now and then to wind him up to perform in a speech for 10, 20 minutes. They sell the ads around him, but when the reality of him, that's the guy who's sitting in the office, right? The guy giving speeches is not the guy sitting in the office. The guy who's kind of getting in and going, that's the guy making the decisions. And even if Donald Trump fluffs a word here or takes a little too long sometimes publicly, we all know that if he's going to be sitting in an office, it's going to be boom, 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 boom. He always has the sound effects for it as well.
Wow. Well, you know, I mean, I've been in that office. I've been in the Oval Office with Trump when he was president. And believe you me, he made the decisions. And whether the staff liked it or not, he made the decisions. Joe Biden's not making any decisions. It's basically Obama's old guys that are still around, that are running the White House and are running America. And in some ways, it suits them to keep Biden there as their puppet because they can get on and do whatever deals they want. But look, you know, July is going to be the convention for the Democrat Party. I simply cannot believe this man will be allowed to run, but maybe I'm wrong.
Let's get back to the UK. King Charles, we got the news, and I saw it rolling out live in your show a couple of days ago, and it was quite grave in its language. The idea that we even got it at all seemed to be a suggestion about how serious things are. But then we saw him out of hospital a couple of days later, and obviously none of us are doctors to be able to work out what's going on. They've been pretty quiet about what is going on. But they clearly wanted to show him being seen as a bloke who might have some sort of terrible diagnosis, but it's not a scenario where he's at death's door. But of course, Harry's decision to fly over immediately made it seem like a death's door situation.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, the cancer diagnosis, it used to be 1 in 3 people at some point in their lifetimes would get the diagnosis. I've had it myself many, many years ago, thank goodness. It's now more like 1 in 2, Paul. So it's not as if this is an unusual diagnosis or disease. We don't know the severity of it. Rishi Sunak hinted that it had been caught early, maybe betrayed a little bit of a confidential conversation. But no, Harry made it look like an emergency, turned it into a real drama by getting on the first flight he possibly could, then being granted a meeting of just half an hour, but no meeting with the Queen, no meeting with his brother, no meeting with his sister-in-law, and within 24 hours, having stayed in a London hotel. Think about that. Yeah. Think how many spare rooms there are at Buckingham Palace, right? Yeah. And he stays in a London hotel and heads back. But you see, here's the point. A lot of people thought, Harry's coming. This could be the rapprochement. But for the Queen or his brother to ever want to see him again or talk to him, he has to apologise for the disgusting things he wrote about them in that book Spare. He sold out his family for money. They're not going to forgive him, and clearly the King's not going to forgive him. he has to apologise in full for what he's done. He shows no signs.
Now, forgive me, I've got a hard out in about a minute here, Talk and TV, you know what that means. But apparently there's a bunch of people who are crossing into the country illegally and then pretending that they're Christians when clearly they're not.
The Archbishop of Canterbury is an absolute washout, Marxist washout. Since he became the Archbishop, church attendances have fallen by 15%. And yet, there are now an untold number of people, young Muslim men coming in from Syria, Iraq, Iran, who suddenly, miraculously, convert to Christianity, and then Bob's your uncle, they can stay in the country and they're granted asylum. The whole thing is a joke. And it happened the other day with a guy that threw horrible alkali substance over a woman and 2 children, was allowed to stay in the country because he claimed he was a Christian. It's bad. We've got to deal with it.
Yeah, bloody oath. Look at that, right to the second. It's like you've got a TV show, which, of course, you can see online on YouTube in the UK and on Flash. Thank you so much, Nigel. We'll see you again next week for a longer chat.